The ability for a company to sustainably maintain resources and relationship with and manage its dependencies and impacts within its whole business ecosystem over the short, medium, and long term is the definition of sustainability as per the International Sustainability Standards Board. The sustainable reporting landscape is rapidly changing at the global level. Considering the ever-increasing global challenges pertaining to environmental, social, and governance dimensions, business leaders in India too have found it to be in their interest to reorient their corporate purpose to extend beyond merely wealth creation into broader themes that its key stakeholders are concerned with. Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) in India owes its origins to the voluntary guidelines on corporate social responsibilities. These guidelines were formulated in 2009 by Ministry of Corporate Affairs in India and can be considered the first step towards mainstreaming the concept of business responsibility in India. The United Nations Human Rights Council (UNHRC) adopted the United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights (UNGPs) in June 2011, which were endorsed by India then. These principles were thereafter adopted by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in India to introduce the National Voluntary Guidelines on Social, Environmental and Economic Responsibilities of the Businesses (NVGs) into July 2011. The objective of these guidelines at the time of their inception was to drive the process of educating businesses regarding what constitutes responsible business conduct. In the present world, sustainability is something that investors are demanding, customers are expecting, shareholders are relying on, and employees are valuing. Due to a change in consumer behavior and preferences, the demand for stringent regulations by investors for non-financial disclosures has increased globally. Hi, my name is Dr. Shruti Sharma, and today I'm going to simplify BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting for you. The National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct (NGRBC) were released in 2019 as a revised form of the NVGs, which are National Voluntary Guidelines. These guidelines were intended to assist businesses to embrace the principle of responsible conduct, going beyond the requirements of regulatory compliance. Soon after, SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India, mandated the top 1,000 listed companies in the stock exchange by market capitalization to publish BRRs, which is Business Responsible Reporting, as a part of their annual report. However, the disclosure mechanism emanating from the NVGs, namely the Business Responsibility Report, needed to be modified to align it with NGRBC and encourage companies to take on leadership roles in practices and disclosures. Therefore, in May 2021, SEBI introduced a new ESG reporting structure titled Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting, to make it mandatory for the top 1,000 listed companies in the stock exchange, which is by market capitalization, to report their sustainability performance from year 2022 to 2023 onwards and maintain transparency with their key stakeholders. The Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, defined ESG disclosures in a standardized manner for listed companies, based on which the Business Responsibility and Sustainability (BRSR) guidelines were issued. Some of the key highlights of BRSR are as follows. BRSR intends to give thrust to maximizing the business impact. It enables the companies with reporting obligation to redefine their corporate purpose with an enhanced focus on environmental, social, and governance, which is ESG dimensions. It has linkages with global reporting standards and annual report. It emphasizes on training and awareness. The new format lays emphasis on the importance of imparting adequate awareness and training sessions on aspects such as employee health and safety measures, anti-corruption issues, and upskilling of workforce. BRSR also focuses on environmental and social assessment related disclosures. With the focus on environmental and social aspects, the new reporting format seeks disclosures with respect to any environmental or social impact assessments carried out by the listed companies in compliance with relevant laws. BRSR has essential and leadership indicators. The revised framework promotes the adoption of the key performance indicators (KPIs) model, and although voluntary, the regulatory authority encourages listed companies to report on essential and leadership indicators as well. The principal purpose of this reporting framework is to serve as an internal tool for businesses intending to align themselves with the NGRBC, which is National Guidelines for Responsible Business Conduct. The reporting structure is divided into 3 sections. Section A is the general disclosures. The objective of this section is to obtain basic information and details of the listed entity, which includes their products and services, operations, employees' transparencies and disclosures requirements and compliances, subsidiary companies, holdings, and joint ventures, etc. Section B, which talks about management and process disclosures. In this section, the company is required to disclose information on policies and processes relating to the NGRBC principles concerning leadership, governance, and stakeholder engagement. Wherever relevant, companies have been asked to provide links to their website where these policies are available. The information required in this section mainly involves questions related to oversight, governance, leadership issues, and management processes. Section C, which talks about principle-wise performance disclosures. The section requires companies to demonstrate their intent and commitment to responsible business conduct through actions and outcomes. In that regard, companies need to report upon key performance indicators (KPIs) in accordance and alignment with the National Guidelines for Responsible Business Conduct (NGRBC's) 9 Principles of Responsible Business Conduct. Further, companies are required to report on 2 parameters for each principle, which are essential indicators. Now, these indicators are mandatory. These are the indicators which the company mandatorily needs to report, which includes environmental data such as energy emissions, water and waste, trainings conducted, community initiatives undertaken by the company, and social impact created by the company. Leadership indicators. These indicators are not mandatory to be reported by the company yet. However, there is a broader expectation that companies would be compliant with these indicators for improved transparency and greater accountability. Now, this might include reporting on Scope 3 emissions and breakdown of energy consumption, health and safety assessment of value chain partners. The leadership indicators focus on providing a broader picture of the company's operations in terms of sustainability. These 9 principles are defined by NGRBC. Now, Principle 1 talks about ethical business practices. The principle emphasizes the use of ethical business practices across the value chain of the company and is put into practice using the company governance structure by defining economic, social, and environmental responsibilities. Now, Principle 2 is about product stewardship. The principle emphasizes that companies should put safety and resource efficiency first when designing and producing their goods. The goods must be produced in such a way that from the time of their conception until their final disposal, they minimize and mitigate their negative effects on the environment and society while also adding value. This principle pushes organizations to comprehend all material sustainability challenges throughout the life cycle and value chain of the products. Principle 3 talks about employee well-being and engagement. The principle encompasses all practices and policies that promote equity, dignity, and well-being for all workers who are involved in a company's value chain or within its own organization, without discrimination and in a way that respects diversity as well as the provision of decent work for all of them. A worker's welfare and the welfare of his or her family are both mentioned in this principle. Now, Principle 4 talks about stakeholder engagement. Now, this principle acknowledges that businesses operate in an ecosystem that includes some stakeholders such as shareholders and investors, and their activities have an impact on natural resources, habitats, communities, and the environment. The principle emphasizes that businesses have a responsibility to maximize the positive effects while minimizing and mitigating the negative effects of their products, operations, and practices on their stakeholders. Principle 6, it talks about environmental stewardship. According to this principle, efforts should be made to address problems like pollution, biodiversity conservation, sustainable resource use, and climate change in a thorough and methodical manner. It also gives preference to environmental issues that are interconnected at the local, regional, and global levels. The guiding principle pushes businesses to implement environmental procedures and practices that reduce or eliminate the negative consequences of their activities across the value chain. Additionally, it persuades companies to act in accordance with the precautionary principle at all times. Principle 7 talks about public policy advocacy. This principle acknowledges that businesses function are under national and international regulatory and policy frameworks that direct their growth and give distinct limits and bounds. The idea acknowledges that corporations can legitimately interact with governments to have their complaints heard or to have their opinion heard in the formulation of public policy. Principle 8 talks about inclusive and equitable growth. This is important in areas where social unrest and low human development are prevalent. In this development agenda, the principle underlined the importance of commercial, governmental, and civil society collaboration. This idea affirms the interdependence between economic success, inclusive growth, and equitable development. Now, the last is Principle 9. Principle 9 talks about customer focus. The underlying tenet of the principle is that a company's main goal is to provide safe products and services to its customers, thereby generating value for both parties. Businesses, together with other important stakeholders, play a key role in reducing the negative impacts of excessive consumption of their products on the society's general well-being. BRSR also incorporates several KPIs of the international frameworks to bring it on par with global ESG reporting trends, including UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. On July 11, 2023, based on the recommendations of the ESG Advisory Committee and pursuant to public consultation, the board decided to introduce the BRSR code for assurance by listed entities. The board further decided to introduce disclosures and assurances for the value chain of listed entities as per the BRSR core. Now, BRSR core is a subset of the BRSR consisting of a set of key performance indicators under 9 ESG attributes. Keeping in view the relevance to the Indian market context, few new KPIs have been identified for assurance, such as job creation in small towns, openness of business, gross wages paid to women, etc. Further, for better global comparability, intensity ratios based on revenue adjusted for purchasing power parity have been included. The format of BRSR core for reasonable assurance is placed at Annexure 1 in BRSR. Disclosures for value chain shall be made by the listed company as per BRSR core as part of its annual report. For this purpose, value chain shall encompass the top upstream and downstream partners of a listed entity cumulatively comprising 75% of its purchases respectively. The board of the listed entity shall ensure that the assurance provider of the BRSR core has the necessary expertise for undertaking reasonable assurance. An important aspect of sustainability reporting for companies in India has been the challenge of selecting the correct reporting framework. BRSR simplifies that problem with a unified, transparent reporting format which all companies will need to adopt going forward. The main purpose of the BRSR is to help companies align their businesses with the National Guidelines for Responsible Business Conduct, which is NGRBC. This directly helps put emphasis on transparency and accountability of a company's operations. There are still challenges in adopting BRSR going forward, such as the lack of suitable skills to meet the reporting requirements. Businesses must seek to bridge this gap by increasing their level of preparedness to understand the criteria and develop their reports as per the requirement of SEBI. Overall, the corporate sector must work towards meeting the obligation under this new mandate and taking it in its stride. The key objective for evaluation by SEBI with respect to the BRSR is to provide a platform for companies embarking on their sustainability journey to understand whether their sustainability ambitions are in line with their pace of growth. The BRSR is divided into two sections, the essential and leadership indicators to help company understand the position and to help them identify their gaps with respect to the industry best practices related to sustainability being followed by leaders in their respective sector. BRSR will act as an effective mode of communicating a company's non-financial disclosures and should be seen as the next step in ESG reporting going forward. Publishing a BRSR report should be seen as a mandatory compliance exercise as per SEBI's vision as to what it intends BRSR's purpose to be. Thank you.